This interview is sponsored by Atrantil, IBS, and bloating support. Welcome to the Better Belly Project 2.0, crushing the critters, plugging the leaks, and balancing the biome for your best body ever. I'm your host, Summer Bach. I struggled with my own gut-based issues for years before I figured out how to heal and seal my gut to get rid of my allergies, panic attacks, skin reactions, and digestive problems. I created online programs to help others do the same. Too many people's digestive systems are wrecked. This is causing an increase in all kinds of disease, both chronic and acute. It's not easy to be healthy in our fast food, too busy culture. But we live in a time where the advancement of our collective knowledge is increasing rapidly. You have to stay educated to keep up. I'm connecting you to my favorite mentors, experts, and colleagues on this life-changing topic. My intention is for you to utilize this resource to help yourself, your family, your communities, and your patients heal their bellies so they can be happy and high-functioning. It all starts in your gut. Next up, we have Dr. Tom O'Brien talking about the 3 pillars of autoimmune disorders. He also has a gift for all the participants. Check out underneath this video. He has a chapter out of his award-winning book, Dr. O'Brien's Tips for a Complete Autoimmune Eating Plan. This is great for those of you who are struggling with autoimmune disease. So I want to tell you a little bit about Dr. Tom O'Brien because this conversation that I had with him was outstanding. He got me to even tear up multiple times during it. He's very passionate and tells some really great stories that help you understand this whole issue behind autoimmune disease and where it's coming from. And Dr. O'Brien is an internationally recognized speaker on food sensitivities, environmental toxins, and the development of autoimmune diseases. He's considered the Sherlock Holmes for chronic disease, and he teaches that addressing the underlying mechanisms that activate an immune response is the highway towards better health. His recently released Betrayal series, The Autoimmune Disease Solution They're Not Telling You, and his book, The Autoimmune Fix, is winner of the National Book Award and ranked #1 in several categories on Amazon.com. And he holds faculty positions with the Institute for Functional Medicine and the National University of Health Sciences, where he has trained and certified thousands of practitioners around the world. You can find more about him at thedoctor.com. I am so excited for you to be a part of this conversation coming up. Get ready. Hi, everyone. I'm Summer Bach, host of the Better Belly Project. Today, we have Dr. Tom O'Brien with us. Hello.
Hi, Summer.
Well, so last time you were on the Better Belly Project, and you talked a lot about zonulin, and you talked about intestinal permeability. This wonderful cheesecloth analogy. You're getting well known for your analogies, by the way. Like, they're fantastic.
Oh, thanks.
You're helping people learn in a way that really takes, this really incredible science that's very complex and, breaking it down in an understandable way. So I'm excited for your analogies today.
Thank you. Thank you.
So we're going to talk about autoimmunity because I have some questions and you are the expert on autoimmunity. You just wrote this book, The Autoimmune Fix. And okay, so I see 2 different kinds of distinct issues. We have people who have autoimmune, who have gut health symptoms, digestive issues of all kinds. And then there are folks suffering with autoimmune issues who have no digestive symptoms whatsoever.
Right.
Why? I mean, if autoimmunity is a gut-based issue, how can you not have symptoms?
Really good, really good question, and it'll help everyone to move forward with a more comprehensive view of their specific problems when they get this concept. So it's really good. When you have symptoms, wherever they are, it's like you've fallen over a waterfall and you've crashed in the pool below, and you swim up to the surface, and you spit out a little water, but you're okay. But the water's really turbulent because the waterfall keeps pouring more water in here, and you're in this pool. You've got symptoms of diabetes, or you've got a sluggish thyroid, or you've got irritable bowel, or you're in this pool of symptoms. Everybody's looking for the better life jacket. How can I float better inside I'm a patient with colitis, you know. I've got colitis, or I've got diabetes, or I've got brain fog, or whatever your symptoms are. The life jackets are really important, and holistic healthcare is unfortunately stuck in the same model. In holistic healthcare, we've got better life jackets. They have less side effects, right? But there's still, the focus is on the life jackets. What we have to do to save the planet, actually, is get a ladder, or get out of the water, get a ladder, go back up above where the waterfall is, go back upstream, and figure out what fell in the river that caused you to go downstream and eventually fall into the waterfall, right? So I'm going to give you an example. This is not a everything turned out great example. Recently, a guy wrote to us on Facebook, and my wife saw this, and she wrote to me because she's out of the country right now. She said, honey, please take care of this. So I read, and I wrote to the guy, he was in Sweden, and I said, you know, I've learned in life that the secret to happiness for me is 2 words. Yes, dear. You got my wife, you got me. Okay. Because I get hundreds and hundreds of requests. Can you help me with this? Can you help me with that? Yeah, there's just no time, to do it all, right? So I did. And he said that his friend, 28-year-old single mother, had been diagnosed with necrotizing autoimmune myelitis, which means the immune system is eating up her muscles. And she was the longest living person after diagnosis in the history of Sweden. That not many people get this, but when they do, they die pretty quickly. But she was on chemo and steroids, and they were keeping her alive. He sent a picture, and nice looking gal, down on one knee with her son sitting on her lap, nice boy, looking boy. She had 3/4 length pants on and 3/4 length shirt on. Tattoos on her wrists, going down into her hands, on her fingers, both hands, down her legs, into her ankles. She had sandals on, or she was barefoot, I think, going into her feet, on her toes, coming up her neck, all the way up her neck, and on her ears. One can only assume also on her chest and her back, right? And she had been to the very best immunologists in Sweden, Karolinska's in Sweden, very famous, like Mayo Clinic of Sweden. And no one was helping. They're keeping her alive, but she's going down. So I wrote to them, and long story short, they didn't go through the protocol. They didn't fill out the questionnaires or anything. So I just wrote to him and wrote back to the guy, and hi, I haven't heard from you. Everything okay? And he said, I'm sorry, she's so sick she can't walk right now. They're taking her to Karolinska. And that was 3 weeks later, 2 or 3 weeks later, I wrote back and said, I understand, so I just have to tell you what I need to tell you, or I can't live with myself. Autoimmune, or necrotizing autoimmune myelitis, the immune system attacking your own tissue, in this case the muscles, the question needs to be asked, why is the immune system attacking your muscles? Why is that happening? It's not a freak of nature. There has to be a reason. Now, from the history that I've just told you, what do you think the reason might be that her immune system is attacking her muscles? She's poisoned. She's poisoned herself. Tattoos, the ink is full of heavy metals, and PCBs, polychlorinated bisphenol products. It's just a mess. We're putting poisons into our body. Her hands, her wrists, her legs, her neck, probably her chest and her back. It crossed a threshold, and the immune system was attacking, right? So, unfortunately, and I wrote back and I said, I hope she's okay, but I have to tell you this information. Never got a response. I think she probably died. And I think so, and I'd really like to find out and then write a paper or a column to say tattoos can kill you. And we have to wake up to that. But that's the world of toxins, environmental toxins. That there's a trilogy in the development of most autoimmune diseases. I can't say all. I believe it's all, but I've never seen a study on that. but I can say most autoimmune disease. There's a trilogy. Genetic vulnerability, meaning that's the weak link in your chain. You pull at a chain, it always breaks at the weakest link. You know, it's at one end, the middle, the other end. It's at your heart, your brain, your liver, your thyroid, your kidneys. Wherever your genetic weak link is, that's where the chain's going to break. It doesn't mean that you're going to get that disease of the lungs, liver, heart, thyroid, kidneys. It means that you're vulnerable to getting that disease. So the first thing you have to do, stop pulling so hard on the chain. And what does that mean? It means whatever is causing inflammation in your body, whatever, that's the pull on the chain. Now that's the link that's going to break whatever gene you carry. You have the ApoE4, which is the gene for Alzheimer's. I think it's really good to know about that. I don't think it's good to have it, but if you've got it, that's the deck of cards you got, and you need to know. Why? Because my patients now know how to monitor to make sure they're not pulling on the chain too hard. They know the biomarkers to look for, and they do them once a year just to make sure their lifestyle is an anti-inflammatory lifestyle, and they're educated. You know that, as far as I know, you're doing everything you can right now. So, first of the trilogy in the development of autoimmune diseases is the gene. The second thing in the trilogy of the development of autoimmune diseases is the environmental trigger. Now, in this case I just gave you, most likely it tattoos. Most likely, can't say for sure, but it's rational that you would want to check. How do you check? You do a blood test to see, does she have heavy metal poisoning? Or does she have high levels of PCBs? And is she making antibodies to PCBs and antibodies to mercury or to lead or to cadmium or arsenic? Are they making elevated levels of antibodies to these things? Then you got it, you see. So genetics, environmental trigger, and the most common environmental trigger is what's on the end of your fork. Foods that we eat. That's why there's 22,000, I think it is now, studies on gluten sensitivity, on wheat sensitivity in the literature. Why it can affect your knees, your muscles, your brain, your heart, your eyes, your lungs, your liver. Just depends on where the weak link is. When you pull in the chain, if you have if your gene is gluten sensitivity, you pull in the chain by eating wheat, it's going to manifest wherever the weak link is, right? So the most common environmental trigger is foods, and the most common, because foods are outside and they come inside, so they're part of the environment. So the most common is foods for environmental triggers, and the most common food is wheat. It's the most common. There are others, of course, but that's the most common. And the third component for most autoimmune diseases is intestinal permeability, the leaky gut. And what the scientists say in the medical journal articles, this is their language, you can arrest the development of autoimmune disease by healing the gut.
Wow.
Thus, this summit that you're doing.
Wow. That's incredible. You know, there's a saying I've heard, every bite of food is your destiny, or every bite is your destiny.
Oh, that's nice. That's
Isn't
right.
it?
Well, and I say it kind of similarly, but my thing is, every forkful is either inflammatory or anti-inflammatory. There's no neutrals.
Right. Right.
The only neutral is clean water.
Right.
Everything else is going to stimulate some kind of response in our gut. So what's the response? Are you throwing more gasoline on the fire down there? Or are you throwing more fire extinguishers down there? Are you eating more berries with all the polyphenols and the great components, the antioxidants and berries? Or are you eating more Twinkies and ding-dongs? Right?
Don't be a ding-dong.
Don't be a ding-dong. Right, right. I was on stage in Australia a couple of years ago, and I said something about ding-dongs and ho-hos, and the whole audience started roaring with laughter, just roaring. And I thought, well, it was funny, but it wasn't that funny. Then was the break, and then I found out that in Australia, that's another name for a penis. So I said, oh, I'm sorry, I came back, and I didn't know. And they started laughing again. So
And then they loved you.
Right. It was great. It was a great moment.
That's hilarious. Well, so, okay, what's interesting to me about this topic is, you mentioned environmental factors. And in a lot of ways, that may be one of the biggest variables, for people that they experience. And so many people, when they're labeled with autoimmune disorders or autoimmune disease, in our culture today, it's still sort of accepted that your body is attacking itself.
Right.
As if this is some sort of fluke.
Right.
As if something's wrong with you. As if you were born broken.
Yeah, no.
And I really get frustrated by that opinion and that even that sentiment that somehow somebody was born broken, somehow their body decided randomly to attack itself. And it's so sad because it also puts that person in a very powerless situation where they feel like they don't have any options or much to do. My body's attacking itself. I heard one of my friends just say this less than 2 weeks ago. And she's like, well, my body's just attacking itself. Nothing I can do. And, so...
Can I address that?
I really want to hear what you have to say about this.
So, piece of information beforehand. The World Wildlife Fund published a study about 6 months ago now, I think, in conjunction with 2 major universities. And I was flying back from a talk I gave in Austin. And I was on the plane reading. It was in the newspaper. And it said there has been, on average, a 57% loss between 1970 and 2012, in 42 years, a 57% loss of all wildlife on the planet in 42 years. And I said, oh, that's too bad. And I turned the page. I arrived back home in San Diego, walk out to the parking lot, get in my car, driving home on the freeway. I almost slammed the brakes. I was like, wait a minute. We've lost more than half of everything that lives on the planet in 42 years? And I realized how numb I had become. So when I told you that statistic, for many people who are listening to this, it probably went phew, just like all the other statistics that we hear, right? But I said, wait a minute. And I went and got the study, and I read the study, and it's a 78% loss of all wildlife around fresh water. 78% of the bobcats, and the wolverines, and the red robins, and the woodpeckers, and the owls, and the deer. 78% of all of it is gone. That's the average. Gone. Gone in 42 years. Why? They're drinking the water. Mm-hmm. If we were drinking the water coming out of streams or out of the lake by where you live, we'd get cancer quicker. We'd be unable to reproduce, just like the animals. We're wiping out the planet. That the environmental toxins that we're doing, that we're allowing, and the whole book is about this. You go to Starbucks or any coffee shop, you get a coffee or a hot tea, and they give it to you. The steam comes to the underside of the lid, condenses, drops back down into the liquid full of bisphenol A. You put the cup up to your lips, all of the hot liquid hits the underside of the lid, tapers down into the opening that you drink from, full of bisphenol A. Bisphenol A, molecule for molecule, is as potent, the word in the Journal of the American Medical Association is potent as the strongest estrogen, called estradiol, molecule for molecule. And it binds onto your estrogen receptor sites, which are catcher's mitts that sit on the outside of the cells facing the bloodstream. And estrogen goes by and it goes into an estrogen receptor site. Bisphenol A goes into these estrogen receptor sites. And for guys, because we have estrogen, not as much as women, we have some estrogen, women have testosterone. When it binds onto estrogen receptor sites for guys, lower sperm counts, lower erectile function. So guys, bisphenol A is no joy to have around. So in the book I talk about, don't use the lids. You go into Starbucks, you go into the coffee shop with a stainless steel container, say, fill it up, please. Mm-hmm. That we have to learn how to do these simple things. Stop using plastic containers for your food. Even cold food, the plastic leaches into the food. Saran wrap, the plastic leaches into the food. Get glass containers for your leftovers. Don't get hot food from a restaurant, put in plastic containers like hot soup or something. You're getting loaded full of these plasticizers, these chemicals. So on the environmental toxins, that's the background information that answer your question. 78% of all animals, all living mammals around fresh water, 57% on the planet. It's gone. Penguins, gone. Eagles. The second part is a patient that I recently saw. diagnosed with diffuse scleroderma. That's a nasty autoimmune disease that you make more collagen. So if it's in your lungs don't expand very well, you don't breathe well, and eventually you can suffocate to death because your lungs aren't working. In your gut, if the collagen deposits in your gut, there's no plasticity, you lose peristalsis, you're not secreting the hormones you should. Gut problems can be very, very severe. In your muscles, in your eyes, when it's diffuse, this is the worst type of scleroderma. It's everywhere. She's 54. She was diagnosed with this just a few years ago. She goes to the top scleroderma people in the country. She went to 2 major universities, UCLA and UC San Francisco, where their immunology departments are world-renowned, went to the top people in scleroderma, and then went to 2 other places, plus saw 4 or 5 regular doctors. They all gave her the cutting-edge therapy they wanted to give her with steroids and chemotherapy. Suppress the immune system, shut down the immune system, because the immune system is making all this collagen.
Your immune system is broken.
Your immune system is broken. You're born this way, your immune system, well, so the genetics is true, but it's the weak link in the chain. You know, I'm just broken, that's the way it is, I have to shut down my immune system. No, you don't. So she reads the book, and she comes to see us. And she said when she read the book, she started crying. No one ever asked the questions. What happened to you in your life? Let's go upstream. What happened? She said that when she was born, her mother tells the story that her mother's in the recovery ward, and the babies are on the other side of the hall somewhere, and the mother says to the nurse, "Oh my, that baby has been screaming for hours and hours. That's not my baby. Please tell me that's not my baby." And the nurse said, "That's your baby." Screaming in pain, just a pain scream. Not just crying because they're hungry or something, but a pain scream. She was born that way. The government of Norway, I think it's either Norway or Denmark, I don't remember, just last year came out with a recommendation. Pregnant women in a first pregnancy need to check their urines for PCBs. If they have elevated levels of PCBs, the government now recommends you do not breastfeed your first baby. Extract the milk and get rid of it for 3 months. Then it's okay to breastfeed, and your follow-up babies will be fine. Why? Because these endocrine disrupting chemicals that sit in your estrogen receptor sites, like bisphenol A, they just sit there and accumulate for years. And they get thrown into the fat cells. Your fat cells store stuff, store toxic stuff, right? It just stores it to get it out of the bloodstream, to keep it away from the brain. It gets stored in the blood.
Right.
Right?
Well, what's interesting about that is that there are Inuit women who are in the most remote parts of the world who have this in their breast tissue.
Exactly. The whole world's toxic and poison now.
Yeah, because, okay, so this is, to me, this is like the basis of why I do this work.
Yes.
And like we're really touching on it right now. I would say what I really study is symbiology, study of symbiosis.
Yes.
Mutually beneficial relationships.
Yes.
And how we all work together. I mean, and we have all kinds of relationships within our body, with the gut microbes and us, and as well as in our lives, our community, people. But then we have the way that we interact with the microbes in the soil, and the way that we interact with other animals.
May I stay for a moment with this case study?
Oh, yeah,
because how we interact, how her body's interacting with her inner environment, right?
Yes.
No one ever asked these questions.
Exactly.
So she said, my mother was born and raised, and I was born in a coal mining steel mill town, small coal mining steel mill town. So the water was toxic, the air's polluted. Mom was loaded with all this toxic stuff in her body. Baby's born likely with all this toxic stuff, and it had been there now for 50 years, right? And she said, when I was a child, we lived next to a cornfield. We used to play in the cornfields, and the dust cropping planes would fly by spraying this stuff. We'd play in the mist, and then we'd play in the corn, playing hide and seek, and there was a little pond in the middle of the cornfield. We'd go play skinny dipping in the pond. She just saturated with all this toxic stuff that probably got absorbed into her body. And her immune system finally said, that's it. That you've crossed the line. loss of oral tolerance. And now the immune system starts attacking the tissue that's got all of this toxic stuff in it, right? Diffuse scleroderma means it's attacking everywhere and anywhere, not just your lungs, but diffuse. It's the worst type of scleroderma because it's attacking everywhere. And so she's now doing the tests. We're doing the test for heavy metals, for toxic chemicals, for toxic foods, for intestinal permeability, and we'll find out. And I would wager $100 that we're going to find she's as toxic as can be. And this is what I said to her already. I said, Mrs. Patient, my favorite patients are the ones that come from Mayo Clinic and they say, I've been to Mayo and they don't know what's wrong. And I say, that's great. That's really great. And they look at me like I'm a nutcase, which is fine because they've heard there's something a little different about me. That's fine. That means you don't have a disease. Because if you had a disease, Mayo Clinic would find it. You've got dysfunction. Let's see what's not functioning right. Let's see what your body is interacting with. What's the symbiosis in this body? Your body's trying to find balance, most likely for this woman and most likely for the woman with the tattoos. The body's trying to find balance in the midst of being poisoned. And so to find balance, your immune system is saying, get rid of this poison, get rid of this poison. But the reason, this is really important for autoimmunity, the reason that all these symptoms show is that you have the exact same immune system as your ancestors, thousands and thousands of years ago. Exactly the same. What were the threats that, see, your immune system is the armed forces in your body. It's the Army, Air Force, Marines, Coast Guard, Navy, IGA, IgG, IgE, IgM, different branches of the armed forces. They're all there to protect you. What was it that our ancestors had to protect themselves against? What was it they had to protect themselves against? Bugs, parasites, viruses, molds, and fungus. That was it.
All things that we've evolved to be able to handle.
Right. So you get bisphenol A from the coffee lids and it accumulates in your body. It stores in your estrogen receptor sites. Your body says, whoa, this is not, I better fight this. How's it going to fight it? As if it's a bug, parasite, virus, mold, or fungus. That's all it can do. Our immune systems don't have any other way. So what happens? The tissue gets damaged. It gets destroyed because the immune system can't break down bisphenol A. It fires chemical bullets at it called cytokines, but it won't break down bisphenol A. So there's collateral damage to the tissue around the bisphenol A. That's where when you have collateral damage, now your immune system has to get rid of the damaged cells, right? Because you always make antibodies to your thyroid or to your brain, but there's a normal reference range. Why? Because we have a whole new body every 7 years. We make new cells, so you have to get rid of the old damaged cells to make room for the new cells. And so you've got a normal level of thyroid antibodies, a normal level of myelin antibodies, every tissue in our body. And so it's normal to have these antibodies. But now you're getting this collateral damage because you keep attacking this bisphenol A. You can't break it down, but the immune system keeps attacking it. There's collateral damage, so now the thyroid cell or the estrogen receptor cell is getting damaged from the collateral damage. Now your body has to make antibodies to the estrogen receptor cell to get rid of the damaged cell to make room for new cells. And then this cycle continues, and it continues, and it continues. And here comes a hormone-related autoimmune disease in this example.
So, I mean, it's funny because I feel like I started out in this work helping people with their gut, and through all of it, I've become an environmentalist.
Yeah, exactly.
For real.
We have to become environmentalists. Every
Yes.
one of you, to protect yourself, your spouse, your children, you have to become environmentalists. You have to understand this healthcare of 10 years ago, it doesn't work anymore. And all doctors will tell you who've been around, the protocols they did 10 years ago don't work the way they used to.
Well, I mean, it's a mess right now, and so I think that what you're doing is amazing. I love that you laid out the genes, you laid out the environmental factor, you laid out the intestinal permeability, and thank you for like really delving in here. I feel like we opened up 20 cans of worms. We could keep going forever about this because it's fascinating, but I think the big takeaway from what you're saying is that people, the control that they have is what they put into their mouth.
Right. Two things.
Right.
To get educated.
Okay, yeah.
Get educated. How do you get educated? Read my book. I'm not much on like sales stuff, but read the book. And it's not.
I've read it. It's amazing.
It's not for me. It's really that you have to get educated on this. Just get educated.
Yep.
And then you'll ask different questions. Then you'll know that this summit and the speakers here, you'll be able to take it in with a bigger picture overview. And you'll understand so much more. You get your belly working better, your immune system gets stronger as a result of it, but we must stop throwing the toxins in.
Yeah, absolutely. Tom, thank you so much.
It's my pleasure.
It's been a pleasure for me. So everyone, thank you so much for being here with us. We will see you on the next interview. Thanks for attending this exclusive interview. If you would like to add it to your resource library, you can do that by upgrading to the All Access Pass. This includes recordings of all the interviews, transcripts for every speaker, and also bonus upgrades provided by some of the speakers. Dr. Tom O'Brien will share something extra, a little bonus for you when you upgrade. Dr. Tom has generously contributed an amazing program called the Gluten-Free Fact Pack, with 28 additional jewels from the best of the Gluten Summit. You'll also learn how to get properly tested for gluten sensitivity and implement a gluten-free lifestyle. This includes an audio file and transcript plus a $10 coupon to use in the Dr. Tom store. And this program is packed with great info. It's yours when you upgrade today. Visit betterbellyproject.com/upgrade to find the link to purchase so that you can complete your Better Belly training library collection. Also, the first 876 people to purchase the Platinum All Access Pass are going to get sponsor gifts. Now, these sponsor gifts are not just dinky little samples. We're giving away some really cool stuff. The first few hundred people that purchase the Platinum All Access Pass are going to get full-size bottles of probiotics, full-size bottles of Atrantil, an amazing anti-bloating herbal formula. There's going to be prebiotic toothpaste, Anne Marie Gianni skincare, really, really cool stuff for those of you who decide to make this opportunity happen for them quickly. Quickly is important. There was so much info that we covered today, and you're going to want to listen to this recording again and again. That's how I do it. I listen while I'm exercising, while I'm cooking or cleaning, and this is how information really gets in my brain. I have to hear it a few times. So I hope you make that choice, and I also want to let you know there's more amazing experts to come. So stick around, and I'll see you on the next interview.